just for what the relationships can bring.
Yeah.
I think a little bit selfishly for me, we have our own 3 boys that are growing up in this community.
Yeah.
And so I want the child care industry to be better in this community because I want our kids to live in a community that's thriving.
Yeah.
That's not just surviving.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that it starts at this age, that 1 through 5 age is so important.
Yeah.
And a lot happens there with development. So, so selfishly, it's for my own family.
Well, and I would challenge you in that word even, like, is it really selfish when what we get to create for our children is only going to give them permission to do the same thing, which means it's a bigger impact for everyone. The more we choose to move in this direction, it gives permission for more people to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's probably the most selfless thing we could do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the cost of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not specifically, we'll get to the monetary cost of it, but there is a cost to being willing to run a business like this.
Yeah.
What have you seen in the past just from a small child care in our home? What are some of the costs associated?
Well, there was a lot of things that I was choosing to, if we're going into that place, at a certain point, I was realizing the choices I was making were costing me a lot more than I realized, because I was at a point where I was pretty much was burnt out. Willing to invest so much of myself in the program that I was neglecting like what I really needed to take care of myself. So there can be a cost there if you don't have an awareness of what you're choosing that's taking so much of you. Because it's possible for you to run a really strong, successful business and not have it drain everything out of you.
Right.
And I've gotten to talk to a lot of people in this last year that are running programs and seeing how big of a cost it is for them, and that they care about it more than anyone else around them. And so they're almost like choosing to, like, it's this idea of figuring out how to enroll everyone else in your vision.
Yeah.
Versus, well, no one else is doing this, so I have to. And I know that was kind of a perspective I was coming from for a while that was really burning me out. And so I got to shift and realize, no, I'm making these choices. And from what place do I want to make this choice? Do I want to make this choice out of passion and contribution, or do I want to make it out of force and obligation? So that, can be a huge cost, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But then realistically, if we're talking about a home-based program, it was in our home, and our kids got to hear lots of noises, and I also would say there's a huge benefit to that too.
Absolutely.
Like, our kids learned how to nurture other children, and like at such a young age, like our boys were coming into our environment and getting to like hold kids and being praised for stepping into the room because they just see these boys as they look up to them.
Yeah.
And I know that our boys complained about it, but I also see
they loved it.
They
too,
miss it too.
Yeah.
So how cool is it that now in a different capacity,
Yeah.
our boys will also get to see and maybe even be a part of running operations.
Yeah.
Like, they get to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I think for me, when I think back to working in the after-school programs, especially with the younger age, because I worked with kindergarten all the way through high school, but there was, and I've gotten better, I've gotten healthier with this on how to deal with this, but seeing some of the young kids that were just so angry, and that that you just knew had a home life that was tough.
Yeah.
And sometimes for me, I took that on
Yeah.
a lot, and I
Yeah.
get emotional about it still.
Yeah.
Because they didn't ask for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, and there's things they don't understand
Yeah.
about why it's so hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes that comes out when I come to school.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to be there for them was beautiful,
Yeah.
and it was an honor, and it cost me something emotionally sometimes to
Mm-hmm.
be there. And now I've done a lot of work to not take that on,
Mm-hmm.
to not make that something that's about me, or to really take on their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a cost.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten a lot better at seeing how it really was a benefit, and it is a beautiful thing that I got to be there for
Yeah.
them, and that the staff got to be there for them. And I got to see some really cool transformations with some of the kids
Yeah.
that did have struggles,
Yeah.
with parents that were in prison, and that they didn't get to see. And so you kind of get the opportunity to step in as a parent figure, and that's pretty special.
Yeah.
So I love that, and there is a cost that comes with it.
Yeah, and that's something that I've had an opportunity to coach around too. And we, like you said, you've done a lot of work in knowing how to not take all of that on.
Yeah.
And it is going to happen. There are heavy experiences that, because you're opening up your heart to love these kids, that it's easy to let that in and weigh heavy on your heart. So it's providing a practice to also let that release that too.
Yeah.
So you're not just holding it in. It doesn't mean you don't care and that you're not there to support, but what does it look like to be in a constant practice of letting it go, releasing it, so you're not holding on to it? And that's something I'm really excited about putting into practice and being intentional with that with the employees.
Yeah. Learning how to fill yourself back up so
Yeah.
you can come back the next day
Yeah.
and do it all over again.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes it is like you get to release all the heaviness and raw and real, and then what do you get to replace that with so that you're not giving out from an empty place?
Yeah.